Hello viewers, this is your host Sushil and here I am with my new video. In this video, we are going to study data validation in Excel. Before that, let me tell you that the channel that you need to subscribe is this one. So if you have not subscribed till now, please do subscribe it. Well, now let's get on to our main business in data validation. Why and what we are going to do or how it is done, let us understand it. Let me explain you first of all that data validation is required for restricting certain cell values for various characteristics like date, list or any kind of format of the cell, whole numbers, decimals, time, text length and finally one can custom certain formulas to restrict the cell values as per the requirement. So let's begin with the first one. Here the date validation is explained in this sheet. Now right now it is pandemic situation and lot of people are yielding or yearning to get their vaccination done. So now for the age group of 18 to 45 has been open recently in many countries. So how do we use Excel to find out what is the age of the candidate who is desiring to take vaccination? Now here I have used the first command. The command here is today. So when you say is equal to today, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, it is today's date. Now if I want to check who is above 18 and less than 45, I have just used the formula here to find out the person whose age shall be 18. Anyone uh, who is born after 6th of June 2003 will be lesser than 18 and anyone who is born before this date shall be elder than 45 years old. Now friends, here one can key in the birth date. So I have done the data validation here for the date. So enter your birth date. This is the message that comes up here and here one will find out the age in years of that person. Here by default one sees the number of years or the age as 121 because Excel by default calculates the years from year 1900. So the current year is 121 years from 1900. As soon as we fill in the birth date here, say someone's birth date is for example say 2nd of February 1985. So as soon as that person enters his birth date, here the age comes in year and that person is entitled for vaccination as per this age group. Now how do one do this condition data validation? Let me explain you. One can go to data tab and here from data validation one can choose to do the data validation to that cell. First of all, let me choose some another cell. I'll explain you how this was done. So data validation. Now in data validation, there are three parts. One is the setting, second is input message, and third is the error alert. Here in the setting, one can choose the date. Now here the date has to be between start date and end date. We already have that in cell number C5 and D5. So let me choose the start date as C5 and the end date as D5. Once done, now one can input the message. The inputting message here for the cell will be enter birth date. So this message will be displayed there. And now in the error alert, there are three varieties or three categories. So one can toggle this check button to show the error alert. And there are three kind of error alerts. Let me explain you all three of them. The first one is stop. That means it will not accept if the value is not as per the data validation. The second one is warning, means it will give a error message and a warning and the user will have to decide either to accept it yes or reject it as no. And the third one is information. This is only for information, like suppose your date is very much valid today but tomorrow it may not be, or vice versa, whatever message it may be. So now here I'm going to type a message, error message saying that uh, uh, age age not valid. So if at all the age does not fit into the given range, it will give that error message. And I have chosen to choose the stop style here. So I'll say OK, and as soon as I say OK, now this cell is very much available for validation. And let me put the date, say for example 3rd of March 1978. So as soon as it says age is not valid, so the age limit, that is 1976, is acceptable, but 1978 is not accepted here. So here is a help that one can get, or you can say retry or say cancel. I'm going to say cancel. I'll choose some other date. So now if I say 1st of June 2001, there it is. The age not valid. It is saying so because the data validation here has been set up from start date is C3 and the end date is 76. So you see there is a mistake here. So let me give you a tip here, that whenever you are choosing the cells, be careful, don't choose the wrong cells at the right place. So the cells chosen here were inverse or reverse, and so it was not accepting those values. So now if I say okay, there it is. And now if I say 1st of, say, October 2001, there it is, the date has been accepted. And now here the age has not been calculated because I haven't applied that formula here. So now if I choose the formula to be, here the formula is B5 minus F5, now I'm going to make it I5. So as soon as I change the formula, it will give the age there, and there it is. The age turns out to 20 for this date. In this way, one can use the date validation for choosing or deciding if the candidate falls in the given age limit or not. Well, let us go to the next one, that is list. Now this is quite simple. If at all you have got a lot of values to fill into certain forms, suppose it is an Excel form, and if you choose the cell there, you can choose the date from the drop down. That prevents the person or the person who is filling the form to choose something that is beyond the acceptable limit. So now the day has to be from 1st to the 31st maximum. If it is February, it may be 28, it is, or if it is not leap year, it can be something else. So that is how it is. The month is what one can choose from here, and this is the year one can choose from the given list. So now how to do this? Let me explain you. Now I will explain you the same example here. So I'll choose the day. I'll go to data validation settings. From there I'll choose the list. So a list can be chosen from the source. Here is the source. So I'm going to choose the date source here from 1st to 31st and say enter. As soon as it's chosen, that's done. Input message and error alert one can put as per the requirement, and I'm going to say OK. So as soon as I put the list in there, in the drop down, the data validation for the cell is available here. So now one can choose the right date of choice, and that's how one can decide a drop down list and make a drop down. One can choose to hide these cells from the drop down columns so that the drop down will be appearing to be unique. Well, let us go to the next one. The next one is any. Now, why should any be used? Because by default, any value can be keyed in into this Excel cell or Excel sheet. But let me tell you, this any value validation is required so that now in this example, I'll explain you this example. The first column has the database wherein the cells are having the format as number. The second one is with text. The third one is date. Fourth one is alphanumeric, that is again text. So now with all this variety of formatting, one can fill in this form or this cells as per the requirement. The restrictions can be done. So now if someone wants to restrict the user of this sheet from using any other cells than this, it is quite easy. Let us do that. I have chosen the cells which I want a person to key in and nothing beyond that. I am going to use it. So now I'll first go to the review tab, and from here I'll say allow edit list. I have already chosen it. So first of all I'll delete it so that I'm going to do it fresh for you. So now I'm going to say new, and as soon as I say new, it refers to the cells I have chosen, and now I'm going to say this range as fill. So now I expect someone to fill this, and either one can give password or choose not to give the password. It's up to the designer of the cells. I'm not going to give the password. I'm saying okay. And now next thing what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say protect sheet. So now what has happened is, or what is happening is, beyond the cells which I have chosen, no other cells can be edited in this. So I'm saying okay. For example, I'll key something and here it does not allow me to key in, whereas here it should allow me to key in. So this is a seat number, that is a text value D36, it has accepted. Now how one can choose? Now these are only the editable cells in this. Let me choose this range, and here in this range now I'll say data and data validation. Now already put in the data validation, so it's not accepting. If at all I want to redo it, I can go here and say unprotect sheet. I can choose these cells and go back to data and data validation. I can choose to clear all, and once those are clear, now I can redo or give any value application of data validation here. So any value can be given here, and any value does not require any kind of restrictions, no limitations or anything. Only thing is you can put in some input message like enter the seat number or enter birth date or the passenger name or serial number, either or and as required. So in this way any value validation can be done. I explain you how to protect the sheet by excluding certain cells wherein editing should be allowed, and this is how any value validation can be used. Let us go to the next one, that is whole numbers. Now there are many criteria or many requirements where decimals are not required, and so data validation can be used to restrict the users to key in values which are very much integers or whole numbers. Here in this cell, now there is some database here wherein vehicle names are given and the monthly sale for values greater than 5000 units are to be entered here. So now how do we do that? Let me choose these cells. I'll say data validation, go to settings, choose whole number, and in this whole number there are multiple choices: between, not between, equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. I am going to choose greater than. So now when I say greater than, it asks for a minimum value and the minimum value here is 5000 units. I chose it. Now I'm not going to input any messages or the error alert. I'll just leave it as it is and I'll say okay. Once done, I can choose here to key in values. So if I say 3000, it won't allow me to key in anything that is less than 5000 units. I have to say cancel because there is a stop error there, and so it will not accept anything that is less than 5000 or even 5000. So let me key in 5001 and let me demonstrate you that it has to accept it because the value here is greater than 5000. So in this way one can compel the person to fill in the values which are only above 5000 units, and this is how one can do. Now if at all I chose to change this value, say for in the data validation I go here and the minimum value now I choose to put it 3000. Now that is done, I can say okay and finish. So this will be applicable only for the cell C3, which is the current cell, and if at all I want it to be applied to the remaining two cells where the data validation was applied, I can opt to choose this toggle button and say apply these changes to all other cells with the same settings, and there it is, the remaining two cells have got highlighted. I can say okay. Or one can choose to remove the data validation by choosing this clear all cell here, a button here. I say okay, and there it is. So now if you go here and you type here say 3500, it is going to accept it. If you change this value to say 4900, it should accept, and there it is. So I am very much on target to explain you how these values can be changed or set up, and how one cell can be amended and the remaining cells in the data validation range can be applied with. Now voter registration form. Now everyone knows that one can vote only if the age is 18 or above. So now here the values here will be other way around. So now 18 will be the value. I'm going to choose the integer. Now the age cannot be put in like 17.5 years. So I'm going to choose whole number. Once done, now I don't require between. I'm going to choose greater than. So the value has to be greater than 18. So the minimum value that I have put in here is 18 and I say OK. So anyone here, if he puts the value as 17, it should not accept. If the value turns out to be 19, it should accept. And there it is. In this way, data validation can be used in multiple applications. I'm trying to give you some simple examples. The first one, I gave the sale values of vehicle. The second one, I gave the voter registration requirement or the validation should be 18 years minimum. Now here is another example wherein a month has been quoted in the column F and the sale greater than 3000 has been mentioned here for model 1, model 2 and model 3. Now if I want to go here and apply some kind of validation, let me do that. I'll go to data validation and here I would say whole number. Now I will say greater than. Now I wish to see the cells which are greater than say 4000. So the minimum value or 4500. I'm putting this value here and say OK. So now this data validation has been applied here. Now how do I use it in different way? So if you go and see over here in data validation itself, in the drop down here we have got two more options like circle invalid data and clear validation circles. So let me go here and say circle invalid data and there it is. Now you can see all the cells which are having values which are not as per the data validation have been highlighted, and this becomes very handy when you are in some kind of presentations or some kind of seminars and webinars wherein you have to explain a lot of things in a very short time, and this turns out to be handy. As soon as the explanation is over, one can go here and say clear validation circles and it clears. So here without any Excel formulas, only based on the data validation criteria, the invalid cells or can be marked or can be cleared as per the requirement. The next one is decimal. Let us go to the next sheet and here the values of sale revenue in millions are to filled in. Already the data validation has been set here, so the input sale revenue should be greater than 100. So now if we go and check this data validation, now you already know how to do the data validation, so I won't explain you again. For the decimal criteria, here it is. I have chosen the decimal criteria and I have kept on the ignore blank option here, greater than or equal to. Now I want to keep this value greater than or equal to, and the minimum value is 100 decimal 001 after the decimal. So now this has been done, and if at all I opt to choose say 100.01 and now I choose this check button and there it is, it has got applied to the complete range. I say OK. So now anything that is greater than or equal to 100.01 will be acceptable here. So if I say 100.001, it should not accept, and there it is not accepting. If I choose say 100.02, it will certainly accept because it is within the acceptable criteria or as per the data validation criteria. There it is. So one can fill in the values here in millions. So 100.02 millions itself is a very big value. So 0.02 million is itself quite big. So here decimals matter, and this decimal value can be set up to many decimals, many values or many integers or many numbers beyond the decimal. Let's go to the time. In time, one can choose to opt for a time, and there it is. I have quoted two examples here. So to restrict the cell to accept only time, the time data validation should be acceptable. I already keyed in the list here for the weekdays. So on Monday, there it is. This is swipe in and swipe out. So I'll show you how the data validation has been set up here. So when I go to data validation, I can very well see this. I have chosen the time option from here. I have said ignore the blank values. Now I want to see the values between F3 and G3. So F3 here is 7.0 or 7:28 a.m. and G3 is 7:30 a.m. So the swipe in is expected for this shift between these 2 minutes, and the people who don't do this will have a penalty of certain way. The same way the swipe out has been done. Let me show you the swipe out how it has been done. The concept or the fundamentals are the same. time has been chosen, the data criteria is between, the start time has been chosen as F4 cell and the end time at G4 cell. And once it is done, fine, how does it apply? Let me give you example here. So if someone comes to the office say at 7:25 a.m. in the morning, there it is. It says that please report on time. So expected time is 7:28 to 7:30. So 7:25, even if it is only 3 minutes earlier, Excel or the system or the time sheet there will give a response as this. And now here one has, or the person who has created data validation has chosen this as a warning. And so now it says, do you want to accept it? Yes, or say no. If no, the timesheet or the time punching will not be recorded here. So I'm going to say yes. And as soon as I say yes, it shows 7:25 a.m. and swipe out. If someone wants to leave the office earlier at say 3 o'clock and chooses 3:00 and enter, it is saying report on time and continue. Now clock here generally has to be 24 hours clock, and now when I say 3 o'clock it is saying 3 a.m. so it is saying swipe out yes or no, that's all. So if I have to leave at 3 o'clock it has to be 1500 hours, and there it is. Now it says report on time continue yes or no. If I say no, it will reject and it will not accept this swipe out type. Well, it is discipline that one has to maintain, and if one has to leave half day, then the leave planning has to be very well done. And here it is, one has to do the leave planning as per this. So how do one does do a leave planning? So now if someone wants to leave at say uh, whatever time it is now, so now if someone wants to leave right now, how does it affect? So here it is. So now in this cell data validation has been done. Here the formula for the time has been used. So anything that has to be greater than the current time is acceptable. So suppose the time here now is say I'll just go and see what is the time now. I'll say is equal to now open parenthesis and close parenthesis and say enter. It gives a time and date right now. So it is 1st of June 2021 and it is 21:44 hours. So now if I choose this and give data validation, certainly I don't want someone coming up and popping up and saying yesterday afternoon 2 o'clock I had left the office and now I want your permission. So now please grant me half day leave for yesterday. No, leave has to be planned in for future and how it has to be done. So here I will say I will choose data validation. I will go to time. I have already done this in the cell B17, and once it is done, the formula will look something like this. So it is quite simple. When I say time, hour, it is now close and open parenthesis and close parenthesis. So the time will be whatever time it is now, that is hour, minutes, and second. So anything that is beyond 21:44 will be acceptable here, and that is it. So let us do validation here. Say OK and go ahead. So if I put in the time as 21:50 today, it should be acceptable. So 9:50 p.m. is acceptable for half day leave planning. But if at all I choose to write 21:45, it won't accept. There it is, gives the error. So this is how one can use time in data validation for restricting various times and maintaining discipline. Next one is the text length. So now KYC or the know your customer is very much essential, wherein people keep on writing text and text under the pretext of first name, middle name, and family name. So many times we find there are restrictions for the number of characters which are to be written or which are to be typed for the names, and there this data validation comes handy. So now if you see the message here, it says key in relevant field up to 12 alphabets, right? So I'll give you a demo here. I'll just first show you the data validation which is done here. Here the text length is chosen between 0 and 12. So one can key in any number of characters between 0 and 12 here. And there it is. So now I will show you how it was done. So here in this cell, I have said data validation, choose text length and between 0 and say, now if I want to make it 15, there it is, I'll say OK. So anything that is beyond 15, say someone writes this name and says enter, it won't accept. So now this name has to be only maximum 12 characters. Say if I say Robert, it will accept it. And this is how one can use the length of the text that needs to be restricted and prepare a proper form for the customer to do the know your customer requirement. The next one is custom. So now here I have quoted an example where a person has to key in his valid UK phone number only. In this example, one can go to the custom. I'll first show you the validation that is done here. Here in the UK, the ISD code begins with 0044, so that has been used very well. So now I'll choose the custom cell here, and now I have choice to fill in the formula here. So now I'm going to use two formula here. One is number and another is find. So find basically finds a string of characters in certain number and returns the value. And is number either gives the true or the false of that value, and so I'm going to use is number also in nesting with something. So I think before I go and key in the formula, I'll explain you how the formula is to be used. So here I will say is equal to find. Say for example, if I use a find value, it says find text. Now for me the text here is 0044, that is the ISD code. I'm putting it in double quotes so that it turns out to be text, and within cell or within text. So I'm going to choose the text here in this cell and say close parenthesis. When I say enter, it will give a value. It is giving error here because there is no value right now here. So if I put 0044 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and if this number is here, it gives 1 because it begins at the string at the beginning. So the first string itself, the search string, that is 0044, appears. So the value 1 turns out here. Now if at all I add each number function here, is number. So there it is number checks whether a value of a number and returns true or false. So now I'm going to use this is number and close the formula here with the parenthesis here. So now it will return either true or false. So since the number there was 1 and it is a number, it returned the value true. Fine. So now if this is true, then the validation will work. So now I'm going to apply this formula here into my validation. First let me copy this formula and keep it with me. I'm saying escape. Now for this value I'm going to delete it first. Now I'm going to do data validation over there. I'm going to choose the custom here. In this I'm going to type this formula or paste this formula. So the is number find 044 in cell number C3 is what it asks for, and I say OK. Now as soon as I had deleted the number here, this turned out to be false. Now the data validation has been set here. I'm going to set an alert here, and now I'm going to change the title for information, and now the text here I'm going to key in this is not valid UK number. So now this error will appear only if the data validation conditions are not met. So the condition here is the UK ISD code must be part of the phone number here. So if I key in 00449, say that is Germany, and I say 1 2 3 4 5 6, some number is there, and I say enter, it is giving me a message here, this is not valid UK number. Now this was for information. If I want to accept it, I can say OK. If I don't want to accept it, I can say cancel. So if I say OK, the number stays there, and this is the difference between the stop, warning, and information. So in warning, the user has a choice either to accept or to reject. In information, there is only a choice of accepting it or reversal of the number by not putting the number there itself, that is cancel. But there is no yes or no there. Whereas in warning, one can choose yes, yes or no. And in the first criteria, that is stop, it does not accept anything that is not meeting the data validation criteria. So now if I choose to write in the number 0044, that is UK ISD code number, and then I type a number, say this one, say enter. It turns out to be acceptable. In this way, one can choose the custom value here in data validation and do the data validation. So friends, these are all variety of criteria which can be chosen for data validation. There are total 8 in number. I explain you how to use data validation to circle the invalid data and how to clear it. So this is how one can make best use of data validation in conjunction with many other facilities or functions in Excel. I hope you have liked this video, and this is what will turn out to be useful to you in many circumstances when you do applications of data validation in your day-to-day work. Friends, if you have not subscribed this channel, please do subscribe because there are many videos on this channel which I am publishing time and again for your benefit. I will back with the next video soon. Till then, I'll ask you to stay safe and goodbye.